Welcome to another episode of Dynamic Thriving Podcast. I am your host, Mary Ann Pack, spiritual guide into all things life transformational. And I'm so happy to have our guest today. Suzanne McColl is with us, and I'm so glad you're here, Suzanne.
Thank you, Mary Ann. I'm so excited to be here. I've listened to some of your podcasts, and it's just an honor to be here today. So,
well,
I am
sure glad you're here. So let's just jump right in and ask, who is Suzanne and what good you bring into the world?
Well, that's a really great question. So, it's one of those questions you ask yourself all the time, like, what is my purpose here? What am I doing? And I think everything I'm doing is really trying to help bring value to people's lives. So, and I've come to this place, and it's evolved over the years.
Oh, absolutely.
How I've done it. Right now, where I'm at is I'm really working with women who are in leadership roles and entrepreneurs who may be struggling with limiting beliefs that they have about themselves, and it's holding them back.
Yes.
And what I do, and it's very common. And there's even times when I tell people what I'm doing, like my friends who are so successful at what they're doing, and they're like, oh yeah, imposter syndrome, I know about that. And I with shock, right? So it's just such a human condition, I think, that we have this, and this is sort of what I'm doing, is I'm trying to help people know that they have this greatness inside of them. That's really what they deserve to feel. And yet, life piles on us all these limited beliefs that we have about ourselves that make us not feel good about ourselves. So that's what I do. That's kind of what I am focused on now with people, to really help them to feel that, to know that they deserve to feel really good, and to know that there's a way to get there.
Yes,
and there's so many ways.
Key. That's all.
Yeah, right.
How do
you want to know that you want to know that you deserve to feel good, and you also want to know how to get there.
Absolutely. And it doesn't come on its own. It doesn't come on.
And it doesn't.
Mm-mm.
And the reason I know this too, and this is, I believe that when you are helping people, that what's really important is that you've gone on your own journey, and you've done that work. So I started out in life feeling I'm sure I started out with lots of joy when I was born, sure. But as I grew up, I was the second of 7 children in the family. So, my parents were overwhelmed. They are, my mother's alive still. She's a good person. She's a nurse. My father was helping people in their lives in, government agencies. So I feel like I was born into a family that believed in having an impact on people's lives, a good one. But I had my own limiting beliefs because I did not get that one-on-one attention that I might have needed. And so I would start to feel that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't enough, I wasn't smart enough, or I was boring. All those conclusions that you come to as children. And so over the years, as I continued to move forward in my life, learning how to be a therapist, I would come up against all these negative beliefs that I had about myself. And I started my own journey, all different kinds of different therapies where I could try to learn more how to get past this, how to get to feeling good about myself. So my journey got me through regular therapy, and then it got me to EMDR, which is the kind of therapy I do with people now, which is really amazing. And then it got me into this whole energy healing journey. And, each time I thought, oh, this is great. This is my thing. Oh, now I'm going to do this. But then I finally came to this place where I realized it's all energy. It's all the same, no matter, there's just different ways of getting there. And so that's kind of been how I've evolved from all the work that I've done. And that's why I know it helps.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, our mess is our message for sure.
exactly. I like
What
that.
we're usually teaching is what we've transformed through, because it plays such a huge part in our own lives, that those of us who have moved into coaching, or like for you, psychotherapy, it's um that's like why we want to serve, because we know what it can do. We know the transformation that can happen. So you're an EMDR psychotherapist. Can you explain what those letters mean?
Yeah, sure. EMDR stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing therapy.
Wow.
And it's a big name. So we call it EMDR, which many people get that confused too. But um, so what that is, it's a brain-based therapy that helps people look at what's happening in their life right now. Let's just say they're having trouble speaking up in a meeting, like they are afraid. We look at what is the negative belief that happens about yourself when you picture that. So we have people come up with a picture of what their issue is, the negative thought that goes along with it about themselves, where do they feel it in their body, and what is the emotion they feel. And then we do something that's called bilateral stimulation. That's the kind of the brain, the neuro-based part of it,
Mhm.
which really just helps to connect, to bring up the emotions that got stored in your body and your brain when something traumatic happens,
Mm.
with what you know to be true now and how you might process things now. Because, and then we have people kind of focus on those things and kind of go back in time to when those thoughts about themselves first came up. And so what I do is I go back in time, but I also come up in the future, in the present, and I also use the future, because it's sort of all happening at the same time.
Right.
So when we go back, it helps to just kind of release the emotion. And now as an adult, you're able to look at it in a different way. Like if your parents were not treating you well, for example, maybe you thought, like my case, if my parents were ignoring me, for example, I might have interpreted I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough. But that was with a very unsophisticated, ability to process things.
Mhm.
So now, an adult, you go and you can process it, and once you even realize that it's coming from there, then you can release it, you can reprocess it, so that you say to yourself, wow, you realize, oh my God, that was really more about the fact that they had 7 kids and
Right.
they couldn't show me, that I was lovable.
Mhm.
And when you do that, in that moment of realization, everything shifts.
Mhm.
And it's like when you take a different turn on the Jeep on your trip, and the GPS totally recalculates.
Right.
It kind of rewrites your life story. So it's amazing. It's fascinating.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you had jumped ahead a little bit, but the topic for today is limiting beliefs, and those patterns that repeat in our lives. And so, what are limiting beliefs, and where do they come from?
Okay, great questions. So, limiting beliefs are just beliefs that you have about yourself or about life that you think are truth, but they're really not. And what happens is they usually hold you back from really fully being present in your true self and really like having the success you want in your life.
Right.
So, and we all have them because even if we have great parents, there's always things that happen where we have to try to make sense of them.
Oh,
And so there's different places that limiting beliefs come from. In general, it comes from society. It comes from your culture. Like if you are, I don't know, Irish, for example,
mhm.
and your ancestors have always believed that, everything is hard work and there's a lot of struggle and there's a lot of sacrifice. So we take those beliefs with us genetically into our life now. And it comes out in how people see the world and what you teach your children about the world.
Yes.
So, I might believe that success at work is always going to be really hard. It's going to mean a lot of sacrifices. So that's a limiting belief that I might have gotten from my family.
Mhm.
Um, and it's not necessarily true. We know that, but that's what I believed. And so your culture and then society, like I have to be really skinny to be loved or to be considered beautiful. There's so many messages that we get from society that cause us to limit ourselves in terms of not feeling secure and confident. So those are kind of the general ones that we're all subject to. And then there's the individual ones with how the relationships that you've had in your life or things that have happened. Uh, People consider like limiting beliefs to happen because of trauma that has happened, like, big T trauma. We call it big T trauma and little T trauma. Big T traumas, let's just say you were part in an earthquake or you were in a big car accident or your parents were really physically or mentally or sexually abusive to you or somebody was, those are big T traumas and those create limiting beliefs about ourselves. Um, for example, not feeling good enough or feeling like you're not safe, like I'm not safe, and and those were true at the time. They felt true, but you take it through the rest of your life as a grown up, and it's not necessarily true. But when you have that lens, what happens is we keep maybe putting ourselves into situations where we may not be safe. There's so much conflict that goes into when things like that happened. And we end up having those same kinds of experiences happening over and over again where we don't feel safe or we don't feel good enough.
Right.
One way of looking at is that it's, you don't necessarily know how to protect yourself when you're young. And so that difficulty in learning how to protect yourself, if you haven't learned that, you might put yourself into high risk situations. Or you might be trying to like resolve a situation, work it out, and you end up getting into similar kinds of situations. And so that pattern keeps repeating.
Right.
Another way of looking at it is, there's something we're supposed to learn from what happens to us. And if we don't learn it, then that situation might just keep happening. I have this one client who had like bad experiences growing up, and narcissistic parents who don't show you that they love you and that you're special because they don't want the light to be shined on you as your child. They want the light shined on them. So you accommodate that as a child. You think, I'm not important. Taking care of my mother and other people is how I'm going to get my needs met. So that limiting belief really serves a person really well because that's how they get their needs met. Otherwise, they would have been, kicked out of the house. And so, but then you continue that pattern of being with narcissistic people and kind of falling into that pattern of like doing what they need and being who they want, and then realizing that's doesn't feel good, and then trying to get out of it, trying to like convince the other person that that you are important, which it doesn't work that way. That it's more like you have to take it into your own hands and say, okay, I've got to figure out why I don't feel like I'm important. And I'm not going to learn it from this person. You have to go to somebody else who can teach you that, who doesn't have anything invested in maintaining an unhealthy situation. So those are like things that keep happening until, and I have clients who have had really bad experiences with their parents, for example, like narcissistic parents is really common. And then they find a great husband who everything feels great for years. But then there's something inside that hasn't been resolved. And so they end up putting themselves into like a relationship with somebody or a job where there's a narcissistic boss or something. And it happens again. And all that stuff gets brought up again. So I always tell them, yeah, it's not a good thing that this is happening, but let's see what you can learn from this. What do you need to, this is maybe happening again because there's something that you haven't learned yet. You haven't quite learned to value who you are, and that you're not going to get it from this person, that you need to get it yourself. You need to like really know it yourself.
Right. It always has to come from the inside.
It's an inside job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are some of the signs that you have them? I mean, obviously it's this repeating pattern and that kind of thing. But like, what are some of the common ones? I mean, can you just list some of those?
Well, okay. So it's really common. A lot of the women that I work with who are in leadership roles or entrepreneurs, and they're doing well in their work, but they feel like they're a fraud, that people are going to find out that they are not really who they think they are. To the outside world, people think they're great, but they don't believe that. And so that's one example that happens. Another example is somebody who's in a great relationship with somebody, but they're constantly worried that that person is going to leave them for somebody else. And there's really no reason. And they can't settle with just believing that they're good enough. So those things that happen in their relationships or in your feelings about yourself at work, they don't make sense. They're not logical. And people say all the time, well, logically, I know I'm good enough, but I can't stop doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Or I know I love myself, but I can't stop eating. So that's one of the signs, is when you're having these thought patterns or behavior patterns that logically make no sense, but you can't stop it. Yeah. It's like this other part of yourself is in charge. And that's that part of you that has those limiting beliefs and doesn't believe in yourself. And the emotion is really strong. Like the reactions to things is much stronger than merits. Like say your husband just looks at a pretty woman, you blow up. That shows you that there's something big going on inside of you that is not rational. Mm-hmm. Given that, maybe your husband has, been your devoted partner for like, let's say 20 years or something. That's a sign. So it's illogical explanations for things and irrational emotional reactions. Those are the biggest signs I find.
The clues.
Clues.
Let you know that there's an issue there.
Yeah.
So how do limiting beliefs patterns then affect our spirituality? I mean, obviously it's affecting our day-to-day lives, but what about even the layer of spirituality? Because, so many of us are spiritual on this podcast, and, you may be speaking to somebody that is like, well, but I'm a spiritual person. So they may be beating up on themselves because they're thinking, spirituality alone is maybe covering that for them, but they're still seeing these signs of repetitive patterns that are really not feeling good to them. They know that they shouldn't feel that way, And so they're, you know, how does that affect our spirituality? Or does it?
Yeah. Well, there's a spiritual part of ourselves that's just sitting there with us and loving us and saying, I love you. You're going to get through this,
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that. And then there's this, I kind of have this belief that, we come into this world and we say, we're going to learn our lessons. This is how we're going to learn our lessons, by having these kinds of difficult experiences. So our it may be misguided by our souls at that, making those decisions, because I think there's much better ways to learn our lessons. But that's choice. And so what I do with people who are open to it is I help them look at, wow, you've really learned a lot of lessons this way. Your spirit, your soul has really learned a lot. Would you like to resolve that way of learning? Would you like to have that be over? And how would you like to learn instead? How would you like to go forward learning the new lessons about yourself, about loving yourself, and about connection to other people and all the good stuff? So I try to guide people with that to resolve those ways of learning, and to value all the lessons they've learned, and to move forward with learning in a more joyful and connected way, or in a sense of feeling belonging and how that feels. So I don't think it hurts us spiritually. I just think it shuts off, I think, sometimes our channels to feel more in touch with ourselves spiritually. I think it's what
Yeah,
happened.
you have that attitude of, if I'm not good enough, I'm certainly not going to trust myself to hear from my inner being. So then to me, it kind of squelches our communication, our intuition.
Yeah, it shuts it down more.
I could definitely see the attitude of, if I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not lovable, then why would spirit love me? Then why would my inner being even talk to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, because to me, beliefs are just those thoughts we keep thinking over and over again until they become a belief.
Mm-hmm.
They're those repetitive thoughts that we have. And we, as you said, we may be hearing them from society, from parents, from adults that are influential in our lives, whether it's school or church or wherever they come from. Just because they were fearful and they believed in those limiting beliefs, that's what you heard. That's what was installed. So it's a matter of, for me, it's definitely, focusing in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel better because, to deactivate something, we have to activate something else. So we have to look for something that does support us. And like you said,
Yes.
when you're feeling the unworthiness, you have to focus on that, listening for the worthiness message that your intuition really is sending you.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm.
mean, do you help people with like meditation or anything so that they can quiet their minds enough to start developing a relationship with their intuition? With
Yeah. Yeah.
these loving messages instead of always
Mm-hmm.
the mean girl in there
Mm-hmm.
telling them how shitty they are.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah. Yeah. We do, I do meditation with people. We always do something that we call a safe place visualization.
know?
All sorts of visualizations that we do with people to help them create these places inside of themselves, or become aware of them,
Yes.
that feel good, that feel loving and kind and safe or expansive. So much of what I do, we use these images of, like maybe they feel that they're in this in this box, you know, and I asked them to like imagine a window and imagine the sun coming in and feel that energy coming into your body and what that feels like. Some of the most powerful moments with people when I have them imagine, you know, if your higher power could see what you're talking about, what would they say about you? It's really hard. What would they say to you? How, you know, it's hard for people just, it's, they just know. They had, because they know inside that God is love, you know, that love is kind of what we get to, was what we're working on here, that's pure love and there's no judgment. And, you know, they feel loved, they feel held. It's very powerful. Those are when people can integrate their awareness of the spiritual, it's so powerful. And all of these negative beliefs are just layers that cover up the spiritual, that inner feeling of love.
Yes. Yes, that's what I like to talk about, you know, offer to people too, because I do it for myself, because this is how I work through so many things. You know, asking my inner being, what do you know, think, and feel about me and about the situation I'm facing? Or, you know, you might say what your limiting belief is. What do you know, think, and feel about it?
Yeah.
Because then they will start getting that beautiful little, those messages of love and knowing that all is well. My favorite mantra of all time, all is well.
All is
uh,
well.
because it's, oh, that's so good. I'm so glad that you help them see past that, see past that, to listen to that higher power, to listen to that the message coming through,
Yeah.
because it is always love.
It is always love. That's what the bottom line is. And that's where people get,
Yeah.
you know, to say I am enough,
Mhm.
that is, if you really feel that on a deep level, that's love.
Yes.
That's pure love. And to really believe it and to integrate it, because we're spiritual beings here, but we have bodies and, you know, the emotions that go with it. We have to integrate it on a human level, you know, so that from all different channels, we believe it
Yes.
from our body perspective.
Yeah, that spirit, mind, body, that integration, that blending into the wholeness of who you are, because you know that's when we're authentically living our lives. That's when we have
Exactly.
that freedom
Hmm.
to be, do, and have anything. When
Hmm.
we are completely blended. Yeah, we can't segment ourselves like, well, this is my spiritual side over here, and this is my work side, and this is my mommy side, and this is my whatever you know, to compartmentalize our lives
Right.
the way we've kind of been taught. Well, you can do this over here, but in this situation, you need to be this way.
Yeah. It
Those
just doesn't
limiting
work.
beliefs, instead of living authentically who you are. And this is, you know, that love allowed to flow through,
Yeah.
you know, to replace that, to me, it just deactivates those limiting beliefs, because then you think, if I have source on my side, if I have my inner being flowing through me, how much more your confidence, your well-being, your self-love, your self-care, all of those things just start to skyrocket.
It
And I
just,
would think, go
no, go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah. No, it just elevates you. It just
Yes,
elevates you to a whole different place.
absolutely.
You're not like thinking all those, um, you don't even stop to think about those negative thoughts anymore.
Hmm.
You know, you get somewhere, you're just looking at the good. You're not only looking at the good in yourself, but you see it in everyone else also.
Yes, yes, yes,
So you
yes.
just kind of ignore the negatives. They're just not as big an issue anymore.
And I think for me, what a lot helped me was journaling, like appreciation journals, journals of positive aspects, where I started, handwriting things that I appreciated or that I saw beauty in, or the positive aspects, even in a situation that might kind of on the outside, I would have judged, oh, that's not good. But yet
Mm-hmm.
there were nuggets of gold within it. There really was.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, it's like you're talking about that brain, the neuro
The
train.
neural pathways. Yeah.
I mean, you're just totally rewiring your brain to even look for those, because you start to get in a pattern of looking for those. So instead of a pattern of limiting beliefs, you're now creating that pattern of freedom and hope,
Yeah.
joy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I love
You
it.
know, we're really hardwired to look for what could go wrong. Because of evolutionary, history. Like we had to always be kind of on guard, make sure that we were going to be safe.
Right,
So it's as we've evolved, that still is there, but we do have to work on it's practice. We have to override that.
right. Yeah, because if you stay in that stress place, that fight, flight, or freeze, your body cannot deal with it. It will break down
It will. It
because
will.
it's feeling that vibration. It's staying under stress. As soon as we go into that, our immune system shuts down, our digestion shuts down, the blood to our brain, wants to be out in our extremities to run from danger.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so when you maintain that level of shut down in
High
your
alert.
body
Yeah.
for long periods of time, it's not like, oh, the saber-toothed tiger chased me, I got away, okay, whew, I'm done. And
No.
all those chemicals flow through your body and you go back to homeostasis. We're under chronic stress with these kinds of beliefs,
Yeah.
and
It's
our
chronic.
bodies break down. I know, I lived it for so many years as a young person. My body
Mm-hmm.
broke down as a young person for years, until I got some natural help, because the drugs and the surgeries weren't going to fulfill the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then
Yeah.
and then finally getting into mindset changes. And then when
Yeah.
that happened, then the well-being came.
That's right. And
Yeah.
what happens is if we don't heed the warnings, or if we don't stay on track of being good to ourselves,
Yeah.
things will happen that kind of try to get us back on track. And sometimes, the universe has to really yell or, like something really bad has to, like my back has been killing me. So, and I know that's because I'm not taking care of myself.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to get out. I have to exercise, get outside and walk more. And I have to focus on me more.
Yes.
So it's like a constant, it's like a lifestyle. You have to
Mhm.
be aware of taking care of yourself
Right.
and loving yourself and focusing on the good.
And you can't have the limiting belief that you have to be a people pleaser and love yourself at the same time and give
It's
yourself
not,
self-care, because
yeah,
you have to sacrifice yourself if you're a people pleaser.
right.
All those limiting beliefs that are surrounding that people pleasing mentality, that belief system. So yeah, you've got to let one or the other go.
One
Either
or the
your
other has to
body
go.
goes, or you let the people pleasing go and you serve yourself.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like that oxygen mask thing. We have to take care of ourselves and put on our oxygen masks first before we can help anybody else, or we'll be on the floor needing help.
Exactly. Exactly. Can you imagine, so if you see yourself like you're the people pleaser and you go into a meeting and you have to talk, your brain shuts down. Like you're not connected with yourself. You're thinking, how am I going to please these people?
Right.
So you don't, your whole listening to who you are, your intuition, even your ability to think clearly, it shuts off. So thinking about going into those meetings, really loving yourself, staying grounded is the way to go. Of course, sometimes it's not that easy to do that. I mean, it sounds, oh yeah, let's just go do it. But it's just not always easy to get yourself into that place. And, I know for myself, I needed to work and continue to work with healing people and people who are going to help me to constantly release things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the thing is, our inner being is always calling us to that good life, that
Yeah.
love, that goodness, that worthiness, that deservedness. So that is always being called. And it's when we're denying it is when we struggle so much. So like going into that it's going to take a little while of working with a mentor and a coach, and for somebody to walk that path with you as your guide, for you to start making those inroads. I know we cannot, we're meant to be with other people. We're meant to be relational. If we could have done it on our own, we would have already done it.
Yeah.
We can't. We
Yeah.
need coaches. We need guides. We
Mm-hmm.
need mentors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh,
And with
absolutely not.
and with one of the things I do with EMDR is I have people think about somebody who really believes in them, like a mentor or a coach or somebody who they know is in their corner. And I have them really kind of internalize the image, what it feels like, what their voice sounds like, how they show you that they believe in you. And I have them imagine that that person is with them when they go into meetings or they go and do whatever they're doing. And it helps to kind of hang on to that belief in yourself. Like you, when you're talking to your coach or your therapist or something, you're like, yeah, I believe now. I'm good. I got this. So it helps you to take that with you,
Right.
and not just, and carry that throughout your everyday life
Yes.
until it just becomes natural.
Exactly. And it is practice. It's certainly,
Yeah.
we retrain ourselves to think differently, to, it is practice. I mean, that's why they call it a meditation practice. It's not a meditation, whatever. It's a practice. You
It's a
have to
practice.
practice it.
Yeah.
It's no different than a relationship. I mean, you don't say, okay, we're now friends and we're one and done, and I never really have to talk to you again.
You
No,
have to have a relationship with yourself.
exactly. I want to spend time with you. I want to be quiet so I can hear you if you whisper to me. You know, we're not going to go to the noisiest place to develop a relationship. We want
Right.
to hear we're hanging on every word. So to develop that kind of a relationship, even with our inner beings, our intuition.
And it's our inner child too.
Yes, yes.
A lot of people think they don't want to think about their child, who they were, but that inner child is still with you, and you have to develop a relationship with it, love it, let that child know, that child is with you now, that
Right.
you're taking care of them and you're going to listen to them. So
Yes.
it's the same idea. You have to really keep that part of you, all the different parts of you. If they need to speak, if they have a voice, if they want to say something, that we listen, you can listen to them. And I that's one of the things that I do with people, help them to do that. Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. So how can people work with you? What, what kinds of things do you offer? What kinds of programs do you have? Or
Yeah. I have several things going on. I've been doing webinars on a pretty regular basis. So if people want to go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, I have a newsletter. And it will always let people know when I have webinars happening. And I'm working on an online course that people could buy and take, that would help them to go through some of these, learn some of these concepts and learn how to really work on loving themselves and releasing their limiting beliefs. So that, will be out probably within a couple months, so they can, again, looking on my website or getting on my newsletter, that would be a great way to do that. And I also work one-on-one with people. So if anybody, I have one-on-one packages, 3 months, 6 months. And so again, probably the best thing is for people to go onto my website and just schedule a discovery call with me to just talk to me about what's going on with them. And is this something that I could help them with? And I could certainly help them figure out what the right thing for them would be.
And your website is?
It's Suzanne McColl, LLC.com.
Very good. And that will be in the show notes.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to find that link and get a little more information or look around and sign up for her newsletter so that, you'll be notified when she does have these webinars or workshops or, and the discovery call, because, if you're not satisfied with where you are and you have a vision to be over there, she's going to help you make the transition, navigate that gap to help you become the person who moves over there. Because you can't move over there if you're the same person.
That's right. You do change.
Way. And believing those limiting beliefs, you have to change and become somebody else, some greater expanded version of who you really are. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, do you have any closing words of wisdom you'd like to share with us before we sign off for today?
I just think that everybody should know that they are more than their limiting beliefs, that they deserve to feel really amazing and wonderful. And if they don't, then they don't have to settle for that. They really should try to find somebody that helps them along that journey, because it is much easier to get to that place than you think. If you have the right tools and the right people to help you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, coaching should be such a normal part of our lives. It's no different when you start out in Little League, you have that level of coach.
Right.
But now they've grown into junior high, so they have this level of coach. And then they get to high school. Your level of coaching grows as you grow. Every time you take another step forward and transform into that greater version of yourself, you're at a new level. You need a new coach.
You really do.
That can take you to the next level. I mean, so you have to stop and think. Coaching should be as normal as our kids' t-ball to, the pros.
Exactly. You get it. You get coaches, you have teachers, people your whole life, and then nothing. So It's just not normal, really.
No,
so
it's not. It's not, like I said, we're relational beings. We, if you could be a pro athlete on your own from t-ball, well, I don't know if there's anybody who's not had coaches and done that. Maybe.
I know.
You would be a rare specimen. So,
and you don't always know until you talk to other people. So, joining like organizations with like-minded people and talking, you learn new ways of growing, and people give you ideas, and you see how much better things could be. Yeah.
Well, I love one-on-one coaching, but I also love group coaching, just like you said.
Yeah.
So many times when you're in a group session and you listen to what that person is going through or the aha they had, you just get your mind blown because you just related it to something in yourself and had that aha moment in your own. I call it a light bulb in the soul. So it's just both are so necessary. If you need personal attention, go for it. Do one-on-one, but also put yourself in that position of joining the group, because that so many times will make you bolt ahead even faster. You don't have to lag behind and wallow in the limiting beliefs that you used to live in.
Definitely not.
Absolutely.
Kind of moves things warp speed.
Yes. I always say that. I so many times I feel like I'm at warp speed because I'm just transforming all the time, and so much fun. To go back and read my journals then and see, wow, I used to believe that.
Exactly.
So that's always fun. So
Yeah,
definitely keep up with your journaling because it's something to celebrate when you get to go back and look at the way you used to believe and you thought you were really doing good then, which you were,
exactly. I know.
which you were. So,
Because you forget. So
oh,
it's
absolutely.
nice.
We're such forgetful people. That's why I have to write stuff down because I
Mhm.
totally forget. I forget my
Mm.
lesson. I forget whatever I was working on. And then it dawns on me again. So, yeah, those little notes and things help so much. So, I want to thank you, Suzanne, for sharing this time with us. I appreciate you so much. So,
It's been great. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed talking with you. I could talk about this stuff all day. So,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I know. And thank you, everyone, for being with us on this episode of Dynamic Thriving Podcast. And be sure that if this spoke to your heart and it resonated with you, or you know someone who might be dealing with some limiting beliefs, be sure and like, comment, and share it, and subscribe because that helps this work of joy that I want to spread into the world, the joy of coaching, the joy of transformation. And I want that to be out there in the world. And when you subscribe and share, that helps me do this work. So also visit maryannpack.com for all of our services and things that we offer and upcoming events. And thank you again for being with us on this episode. And remember, you are joy looking for a way to express.